You know, we all like to think we're too smart to get scammed. We see those obvious tricks, right? The emails from a foreign prince, and we just laugh them off. But what if the real hook of a scam has nothing to do with the trick itself? What if it's all about the deeply rooted psychology they exploit inside every single one of us?
And that really is the million-dollar question, isn't it? Because they do. It's a total myth that only gullible or, uneducated people become victims. The truth is way more complex, and honestly, it's a little unsettling.
Yeah, and this is where it gets really weird. You're reading that quote right. It's not a typo. Research actually shows that having a little bit of knowledge can make you more vulnerable, not less. It gives you this dangerous sense of overconfidence that scammers are absolute masters at exploiting.
So how in the world do they do it? Well, it's not some kind of magic trick. It's all about psychology. Scammers are master manipulators of our own biases and our emotional triggers. They don't have to break down our defenses. They just walk right through the doors we tend to leave wide open.
And look, our understanding of these tactics isn't just guesswork. It comes from some serious research. This was a landmark report for the UK's Office of Fair Trading. And what they did was they dissected countless scams to basically reverse engineer the playbook that these con artists use.
And this right here, this is the core of their playbook. First, they hit our visceral triggers. I'm talking raw emotions like greed or fear that just completely bypass rational thought. Then, they create what's called a phantom fixation, making a $1 million prize feel so incredibly real that a $100 fee to get it seems like nothing. Then they throw in scarcity, the whole act now or lose out thing, to stop you from taking a second to think. And finally, they wrap the whole thing up in the disguise of authority to make it all look official. Seriously, understanding this playbook is your first big step to seeing a scam coming before you're in too deep.
Okay, so that's the theory. But let's see how these psychological traps are actually set in the real world.
So, over in Rajasthan, India, a huge scam preyed on one of the oldest desires there is, the allure of gold. Jewelry shops were selling pieces that looked, felt, and seemed like the real deal, but they were basically just worthless fakes.
And the method was just devastatingly simple. They'd take some cheap metal, stamp it with a counterfeit hallmark, and there's that appeal to authority we were just talking about, and then they'd sell it as pure 22-karat gold. They were totally exploiting the trust that customers put in that one tiny, official-looking mark.
So, how do we fight back? How can you protect yourself when the very symbols we're taught to trust are being forged? Well, luckily, there are ways.
First off, you've got to know what you're looking for. A real hallmark, something like 22K or 916, tells you the purity. But you also need to keep an eye out for other letters. Markings like GP for gold-plated or GF for gold-filled. Those are dead giveaways that you are not holding solid gold. And get this, you don't even need a fancy lab. You can do simple tests right at home. Real gold is super dense. It'll sink in water immediately. Or, my personal favorite, just rub the item on an unglazed ceramic plate. Real gold leaves a golden streak. A fake, it'll leave a black mark. The big takeaway here is that just a little bit of practical know-how can be your absolute best defense against getting deceived.
Okay, so these simple tests are fantastic for physical objects. But the core idea of a scam, using false authority to exploit trust, that doesn't just apply to fake gold. I mean, what happens when that same kind of deception is woven into the very fabric of a community, messing with public funds or people's basic rights? How do you fact-check an entire system?
Well, this brings us to a really remarkable story about what it looks like to fight back, not with a ceramic plate, but with information itself.
This is Khabar Laharia, which translates to a wave of news. It's a digital news outlet, and it's staffed entirely by women from marginalized rural communities in India. And they don't just report the news. They dig deep, they investigate it, and they hold powerful people accountable. And their impact is just staggering. I mean, back in 2017, they were already hitting over 1 million page views every month. They started out as just a small print experiment for women who were learning to read, and they blew up into a national phenomenon. A powerful voice for communities that were so often ignored or, worse, deceived. And this quote right here, it gets to the absolute heart of their power. Their authenticity is their armor. They're basically doing for their communities what that ceramic test does for gold. They're scratching beneath the surface of the official story to find out what's really underneath. They're fighting the big scam of misinformation by providing verifiable, grassroots proof.
All right, so we've seen the psychology of the scam and the incredible power of truth. But let's end this with a simple story that boils it all down to its most basic element: that raw, visceral trigger of human greed. So, the story goes like this. A traveler finds a big bag filled with gold coins. His joy lasts about 2 seconds because a cheetah starts chasing him. In a moment of pure desperation, he leaps and grabs the cheetah's tail, just holding on for dear life as it drags him across the plains.
Just then, a wealthy merchant happens to ride by and asks him what on earth he's doing. The traveler, seeing his chance, yells back, "This is a magic cheetah! Every time I shake its tail, it produces gold coins." Well, the merchant's eyes go wide with greed, and he demands a turn. "You've had enough," he shouts. "Now it's my turn to get rich."
The traveler happily hands over the tail, snatches the real bag of gold, and runs for his life. The merchant starts shaking the tail furiously, but of course, nothing comes out. And the second he lets go, the cheetah turns around and attacks. You see, the merchant didn't fall for some complex trick, he fell for a simple story that was a perfect mirror of his own greed.
And ultimately, that's what this is all about. Scammers don't just sell us fake gold or phantom lottery wins. They sell us stories about ourselves, that we're special, that we're lucky, that we somehow deserve a shortcut. So maybe the most powerful defense we have is to be brutally honest about the stories we're most desperate to believe.